I had a buddy come visit over the weekend, and we had one epic bourbon tasting. And today, we're discussing those 8 bottles. Welcome back to another episode of Neat Bourbon. My name's Tanner, and today, mixing it up a little bit, instead of doing like a 1 bottle review, we're going to be covering 8. I had a buddy come visit over the weekend, and it was his first time coming down to the basement bar. And so anytime that happens, I want to make sure that, whoever it is has the opportunity to try whatever they want. And my buddy is, pretty big into bourbon as well. And several of the bottles behind me he hadn't had before. So we kind of orchestrated kind of an off-the-cusp bourbon tasting. I kind of wanted to go over the bottles we chose, why we chose them, and some of our thoughts as well. Because again, all these bottles he hadn't had before, and I know them very well, but it was awesome to get his opinions, and those I'm going to be sharing with you all today. So first off, we wanted to start off with kind of a lower proof bourbon. And I was, again, he hadn't been down here before, and I was so I was pulling out some of the higher end stuff that I have in the low proof range. So I gave him the option of the Elijah Craig 18 and then the Shanks Homestead. So he ended up choosing the Shanks. I told him that you're going to have a more rich, heavy, oakier profile with the Elijah Craig 18, strong vanilla, and then the Shanks is going to have a not quite as sweet oak, but more of a lumberyard style oak in my opinion, and then a very sweet, profile as well, being the sour mash. So that was our bottle number 1, and the kind of theme that we were trying to stick with during the whole tasting was kind of start low and then elevate, the proofs up from there. Now keep in mind, this tasting did go on for multiple hours. We cooked dinner in between, so don't think that we were just, down here slamming bourbons. So this was a whole night affair. But again, so started off with the Shanks, and my buddy Miguel, he did really enjoy it. It wasn't anything that was overwhelmingly, crazy in his opinion. And again, I'm a pretty big fan of this bottle as well. But his overall opinion was he just thought that this was a great bottle to start off with, and he would definitely have it again. But he didn't think it was going to be anything that he would really reach for, when we kind of were going over cost and what you have to do to get this bottle. So he just thought it was really solid for what it was. So again, first bottle was the Shanks. And oh yeah, one more thing. Yeah, so the Shanks comes in, that's 91, I believe. Yeah, 91.2 proof was starting off. And then next, we kind of wanted to amp the proof up a little bit, and we kind of got into a conversation. I was showing him, the old Fitz 8, which was, a bottle that I had recently gotten, and, he was really interested in trying it. And as always, anytime that someone tries the 8, they gotta try the 19, because again, if you're first time down here, you haven't had them, there's not going to be many opportunities that you probably have to try both of them side by side without paying a lot of money. And I'm very honored to have the privilege of owning these two. And because I have them, you got to share them with as many people as possible. So poured both of these up for him, and he hadn't had an old Fitz before, and just wanted to kind of gauge his opinion, because, for me, I think the I-19 is an absolute banger, and I think the 8-year is just, pretty solid. And so his overall opinion when he was comparing, the 19 to the 8, he was I can tell that the 19 has a much larger depth of flavor, but he struggled to really pick out what that was. But trying them side by side, he was able to distinguish that hey, this one's definitely, tastes richer in that profile. And I was trying to kind of point out to him that for me, the 19, you get a mess of maple on it, and it's a bunch of that sweet oak. And then I felt the oak in the 8-year was a little bit sharper and almost a little bit drying on the back end. He was able to pick up a little bit of that drying on the back end there. But overall, so our bottles 2 and 3, we had a little old Fitz comparison, and the takeaway was he definitely could tell that the 19 was better. So that's good. I would have hoped so, because I don't know. I mean, you never know. Older doesn't necessarily mean better, but for the cost difference, you would hope that anyone trying these two for the first time could tell that the 19 was better. So, that was really reassuring. So again, Old Fitz, both, bottle and bond, so they're going to be 100 proofs. So then after that, I have, multiple bourbons down in my cabinet that aren't open before or that haven't been opened yet. I'm just kind of waiting to, free up some space on the bar before I pop the corks. So a bottle that I had just purchased that I had not opened yet was the Jack Daniel's Twice Barreled Rye. And he was like, oh man, I would love to try that. And I was like, dude, let's open it. He's like, I don't want to open it. It's a new bottle. I was like, nah. I need to get a review out on it anyways, so it's good. The cork's coming out this week regardless if you try it or not. So let's go ahead and get it out. And then it was while we're talking, I was like, dude, we have got to put it up against the Michters Toasted Barrel Rye because immediately right when we popped the cork out of this bottle, we both kind of sniffed it a little bit, and the first thing that jumped out of it was that butterscotch note. And if you've seen my review on the Michters Toasted Barrel Rye, that bottle to me is just the sweetest butterscotch note ever. And the rye spice is there, but the nose, the butterscotch that you get on that nose was just I've never had a nose like that before. So again, so wanted to have the opportunity to compare these, especially since we're going to be fresh cracking this. And it's not very often that, you'll have two super nice, double oaked, rye. So again, this one's clocking in a little, this one's clocking in a little bit higher around that. I think it's 111. No, this one's 108.8. The Jack Daniel's is 100 proof. So again, poured them both up and we just wanted to get his thoughts on it. So he had the Jack Daniel's first and he really enjoyed it. He could definitely taste the butterscotchy profile on there, that sweetness was right there. And then he went over to the Michters and he could really tell the amped up sweetness on that on the Michters. He could tell that he was saying that the rye spice was shining through a lot more on the Michters than it was on the Jack Daniel's. And overall, he this Michters Toasted Barrel, he was this is my jam. I sent him home, with a 2-ounce sample of it, and he was just floored by the profile and that sweet oaky profile that you were getting off of this Michters, which I was really glad to hear because I tasted these two as well. I'm not trying to review this bottle right now, so maybe I'll cut it short. So review coming soon on this once I have more than just a scotch of a nip. But anyways, Miguel thought that the Michters Toasted Barrel Rye was out of this world good. So yeah, the Michters 10-year rye, I was like, you gotta try that one while you're down here. This bottle is a heater in my opinion. This is the cat's pajamas of ryes in my opinion, and I think that this bottle is incredibly special, and I think it drinks just like that. I was a little concerned with him trying it right after those two toasted barrel ryes, because one, the proofs are both higher. This one's clocking in at 92.8 proof. And so I wasn't really sure what his thoughts were going to be. So poured him up a little bit of, the Michters 10, and he just thought it was, pretty good. He said it wasn't really rocking his socks, because I had kind of talked it up a little bit before, because I love this bottle. Anytime the cork comes out, I'm always eager to have some as well. So, yeah. So he thought that this bottle was just all right, coming off of the Jack Daniel's and the other Michters, the Toasted Barrel. So he would have probably chosen one of those over this one if given the chance. But he just said it did have a sweet profile, and he thought that the rye was still there on the palate, but it wasn't wowing him. So I was kind of like a little piece inside of me died, because I was like, I just love this bottle so much. And that's, again, everybody likes their own things that they like. Everybody's got their own palate. So that was really cool, but he was still super stoked to have the opportunity to try it. Then we're after dinner, and then we're kind of wrapping things up, and he wanted a nightcap pour. So I was, again, whatever you want on the bar, I recommended, since this is a really special bottle, and I think that this stuff is absolutely amazing. This is the A. Bourbon, the cask strength. This is their batch 1. This is a hazmat. I saw the hazmat and he was like kind of like, woo, like that might be a little too much, for him at that point. So I was like, okay, cool. We'll keep the cork in it for now. So what are you interested in? He ended up selecting the Stagg Jr. Now this one is a store pick. I do have 22B open as well, and I also have this one as a store pick. He said, which one do you recommend? I told him that I put this bottle up in a blind against the E.H. Taylor barrel proof, the Blanton straight from the barrel, basically all in the Weller foolproof, and this bottle actually came out on top, which I was kind of surprised it beat that Taylor. But yeah, so this bottle, blown away by like the grapiness of this bottle. I remember it being more of like a super dark sherry. That's something about whatever we ate that night, or not, maybe it was all the other bourbons we had been tasting, but this thing just tasted like some sweet heat grape juice, and it was so delightful and the perfect thing to have a culmination for this tasting. A great time. We ended up tasting through about 7 bottles and then some. He also brought up a few samples as well, and one of them that I had was a Bare Knuckle Rye, a store pick, and holy smokes, he got it from the R Bourbon subreddit. Not sure if anyone is on that Reddit subgroup, but it's an amazing page. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a lot of awesome chat and information going on over there. But like that Bare Knuckle Rye store pick, like kind of came off in the front, very similar to like the Pikesville Rye. And then it kind of went into a heavy cinnamon across the and I mean like cinnamon powder, like that sort of like pungent, cinnamon like profile. And then all on the back was green, like Granny Smith green apples on the finish. I was, blown away by like how, complex that profile was and how strong that green apple was on the finish. So again, I guess Bare Knuckle Rye, I haven't had one personally. I have the Bare Knuckle High Rye Bourbon back there. I think that bottle is really solid, but that rye that he brought up in a little sample was lights out. But anyways, guys, what do you think of this video? Do you enjoy this style of content? Tried to pack it full of as many bottles as possible. Wanted to share with you all an awesome night that we had and kind of like our thought process behind the staging of bourbons. And, we did go from bourbon to rye, but, whatever. We're just, a couple guys in the basement having a good time. What are some of the bourbon flights and bourbon tastings that, y'all have been doing? Like, what should we have done differently? What did we miss? What bottles behind me? Would y'all have liked to have seen in that tasting? Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video today. This is Neat Bourbon. My name's Tanner, and pop the bottles and share the pours, and we'll see you in the next one.